45, 13, 27832803, December 2008. Who would pay for rural open space preservation and inner-city redevelopment? Identifying support for policies that can contribute to regional land use governance. Raymond Mohammed. Paper first received, August 2006, in final form, December 2007. Abstract. A growing literature has made the case for preserving rural open space and redeveloping inner cities. Together, these policies can contribute to the inside-outside strategy of new regionalism. However, it is unclear whether citizens are willing to pay for these two policies. Using data from a survey of Michigan's citizens, statistical analyses were employed to ascertain who would pay for both policies. Of the respondents, 37% would pay for both policies. The coalition of support is centered on younger people, liberals, and whites, and people who are generally satisfied with their communities but are concerned about sprawl. When compared with the results for those who would pay only for one policy, the findings suggest that policymakers may be able to broaden the coalition of support for policies that can contribute to regional land use governance if measures are taken to ensure that benefits are widely spread. 1. Introduction. A growing literature has made the case for preserving rural open space, for example, Land Trust Alliance, 2002, Daniels, 1999, and Redeveloping Inner Cities, for example, Porter, 1997, Nelson and Milgrom, 1995. In addition, some scholars have linked these two policies, arguing that they work together to further the goals of land use planning at a regional scale, for example, Calthorpe and Fulton, 2001, Pastor et al., 2000, Nelson et al., 2004. In this context, coordinated policies at both the fringe and in the city can contribute to what scholars refer to as new regionalism, where local governments employ cooperative governance mechanisms as opposed to the top-down old regionalism. Raymond Mohammed is in the Department of Geography and Urban Planning, Wayne State University, 656 West Kirby Street 3213 Fab, Detroit, Michigan 48202 USA. Email, ar7347@wayne.edu. 0042-0980 print/1360-063X online copyright 2008 Urban Studies Journal Limited downloaded from http://usj.sagepub.com at Wayne State University on November 20, 10.1177/00420980080982006 doi, 2008. 2784. Raymond Mohammed. That promoted regional government to address metropolitan-wide problems, see, for example, Rusk, 1999, Savage and Vogel, 2000, Orfield, 2002. While the agenda of new regionalism is broad, from addressing economic competitiveness in a globalizing world to minimizing negative spillover effects between neighboring jurisdictions, Norris, 2001a. Key to this agenda is the protection of rural open space and the redevelopment of existing downtowns. Scott, 2007, part of what Rusk, 1999, refers to as the inside-outside strategy. However, implementing these two policies that are key to new regionalism can be expensive and they can impose costs on some citizens while they confer benefits on others. Orfield, 2002, Wheeler, 2002. Dreyer et al., 2004, Downs, 2005. Despite a growing literature on citizen support for land use policies in general, previous research has not investigated simultaneous support for these two particular policies in light of the potential costs and distribution of benefits and, in turn, the implications for new regionalism. Such an analysis is important in the context of observations by some scholars that the possible redistribution of costs and benefits is one reason why regional governance and other land use reforms have not been widely adopted in the U.S. Basalo, 2003, Downs, 2005, Ross and Levine, 2005. This article contributes towards filling this gap in the literature by ascertaining which citizens would pay for the two policies, which together can contribute to the success of the inside-outside strategy of new regionalism. An important point to note is that this article does not address citizens' support for overall regional planning. Such an analysis would also require investigations of whether citizens are willing to cede local control of land use decisions to regional agencies or to form a single regional government. I also acknowledge that citizens do not consciously associate rural open space preservation and inner-city redevelopment with regional governance. However, whether or not citizens recognize the link is not crucial to this research. In practical terms, backing for both policies will imply support for measures that can contribute to regional land use governance. Backing for only one or neither of the policies will suggest a lack of support. Data for this research are drawn from a survey of citizens in Michigan that was conducted during winter 2005. The survey inquired about citizens' willingness to be taxed a small amount for policies that would allow the purchase of open space in rural areas and/or redevelop abandoned property in inner cities. Standard multinomial logistic regressions were then employed to identify persons who are willing to be taxed for both policies, one or the other, or neither. The first group, those who are willing to be taxed for both policies, is the focus of this article. They are interpreted as being willing to incur some costs for policies that can contribute to regional land use governance. Michigan was chosen as the location for this research because it is probably one of the most difficult U.S. states in which to implement a regional agenda. Relevant features of Michigan are that the state contains a home rule tradition that inhibits regional planning, MLULC, 2003. A declining, city-centered industrial base and a job market that has sprawled into the suburbs, PSC, 2001, MLULC, 2003. Concentrations of poverty and minority populations in some cities combined with white majorities and more wealth in the suburbs and exurbs. According to Gerhardt, 1999, the Detroit metro area is one of the most segregated in the nation. A strong pro-growth tradition that sees planning as inhibiting economic growth, PSC, 2001, MLULC, 2003. Downloaded from http://usj.sagepub.com at Wayne State University on November 20, 2008. Who would pay? 2785. If support for policies that can contribute to regional land use governance could be identified in a state like Michigan, it would augur well for the new regional agenda, both in the state and across the U.S. The remainder of the article is as follows. Section 2 briefly reviews regionalism in the U.S., Section 3 briefly discusses potential sources of support for both open space preservation and inner-city redevelopment, Section 4 discusses the land use context in Michigan, Section 5 discusses the data and methodology utilized for the study, Section 6 uses the literature in Section 3 to present hypotheses on support for the two policies, Section 7 presents the results of the analysis, and Section 8 contains discussions and conclusions. 2. A brief review of regionalism in the U.S. A substantial literature has emerged over the past decade that has made a strong case for regional governance. See, for example, Rusk, 1999, Savage and Bogle, 2000, Orfield, 2002, Dreyer et al., 2004. The underlying rationale is the belief that cities and suburbs are linked in their fortunes, Norris, 2001b, and that decaying central cities, a process that is abetted by sprawling land use, can be a burden on entire regions, Savage et al., 1993, Barnes and Leadber, 1998. Proponents of regional governance also argue that regionalism can improve economic competitiveness in a global economy. For additional discussions, see Pierce et al., 1993, Savage et al., 1993, Rothblatt, 1994. This new form of regionalism differs both in objectives and institutional arrangements from previous attempts. See, for example, Norris, 2001a. While previous attempts at regionalism dealt primarily with issues of economic inefficiencies across jurisdictional boundaries, such as traffic congestion and the inefficient provision of infrastructure, see, for example, Greer, 1962, Danielson. 1976, New Regionalism takes a broader view. With the underlying belief that the fortunes of cities and suburbs are linked, New Regionalism now encompasses economic growth, equity, environment, public engagement, and defining the area in which growth is permitted that, in turn, directs growth to cities and preserves open space. Wheeler, 2002. Collectively, these policies are related to smart growth and the related concept of new urbanism. Calthorpe and Fulton, 2001, DeGrove, 2005, Landis, 2006, Scott, 2007. Institutionally, while previous attempts at regionalism advocated regional governments, the new regionalism advocates cooperation and partnerships. Scott, 2007, in which the power of local governments is not diluted. Parks and Okerson, 1989. These institutional arrangements evolved as a means of breaking political gridlock. Pastor et al., 2000. One of the obstacles to regionalism? Norris, 2001a. Although there are some indications that new regionalism is becoming more popular in the U.S., it is still the exception rather than the rule. Basalo, 2003. Norris, 2001a, attributes this to the policies promoted by new regionalism, which he has termed inherently redistributive in nature. P. 567. The potential realignment of costs and benefits that could result from new regionalism is echoed by other land use scholars, in general, by Wheeler, 2002, Orfield, 2002, pages 85110, and Dreyer et al., 2004, ch. 8, and by Downs, 2005, in the specific case of smart growth. Indeed, as is evident from the various incentives employed, see White et al., 2003, directing growth to downtowns can be expensive. In addition, when development is directed to cities, rural landowners who expected profits from increased land values will see those profits eroded, while those in a position to benefit from infill development will see windfall gains. Downs, 2005. Likewise, programs that preserve rural land may raise property values for those. Downloaded from http://usj.sagepub.com at Wayne State University on November 20, 2008. 2786. Raymond Mohammed. Who Live in Rural Areas, Mohammed, 2006, Correll et al., 1978, Nelson, 1985, Lindsay and Nape, 1999. While the costs to acquire the land can be high, Orfield, 2002, pages 117118, and may be paid for by all, including urban residents who appear to derive few benefits from such programs. These disparities can take on additional significance when the costs are perceived as being incurred by one racial group and the benefits are perceived as going to other groups. Notwithstanding the disparities between costs and benefits that could result from new regionalism, many studies have identified persons who support land use planning in general. Connerly and Frank, 1986, Baldassari, 1994, Chapin and Connerly, 2004. Other studies, though fewer in number, have found support for some form of regional planning. Baldassari, 1989, 1991, Wasmer and Lasher, 2006. While these studies provide valuable insights about support for land use policies, none of them has inquired about simultaneous support for the two policies that are key to promoting new regionalism: the preservation of open space in rural areas and the redevelopment of inner cities, and whether citizens would pay for implementing these policies. Use policies to encompass a variety of policies that scholars have examined. As appropriate, at other times, terms such as growth controls, land use controls and regional planning, as they have been employed by cited authors, will be utilized. Despite these limitations, four broad indicators of support for land use policies have emerged: socioeconomic characteristics, demographic characteristics, ideological and political attitudes, and community circumstances. 3.1 Socioeconomic characteristics. 3 potential sources of support for policies that can contribute to regional land use governance. There is considerable literature on support for land use policies. This literature is briefly reviewed to shed light on what kinds of citizens and what circumstances might support the 2 policies under consideration. It is important to note that the literature lacks consistent terminology and geographical contexts. In addition, questions could be differently worded or framed, leading to difficulties in drawing consistent conclusions. Point 1 Because of the variety of terms used in the literature, this article employs the generic term land. Some of the literature, Frieden, 1979, Logan and Semyonov, 1980, including more recent research, Chapin, 2004, Chapin and Connerly, 2004, has found that those higher up the socio-economic ladder are more likely to support land use policies. Chapin and Connerly, 2004, found that in Florida in 2001, higher income persons were more likely to support growth controls, although this finding represented a change from the results of a similar survey performed in 1985 when class, in general, appeared not to matter. Connerly and Frank, 1986, point to other indicators of socio-economic standing, including home ownership and living in a single-family home, are also positively associated with support for land use policies. Pratash and Baldassari, 1983. Because higher education is associated with higher income, home ownership, and support for environmental causes, those with a college education are expected to support land use planning. Dunlap et al., 2001. This was indeed the case found by Nape, 1987, in terms of support for land use controls in Oregon, and by Wasmer and Lasher, 2006, in terms of support for regional planning in California. Other research has not found a link between level of education and support for land use policies. Gottdiener and Niemann, 1981, Pratash and Baldassari, 1983, Chapin and Connerly, 2004, suggesting that this issue is not resolved. Downloaded from http://usj.sagepub.com at Wayne State University on November 20, 2008. Who would pay? 2787. 3.2 Demographic characteristics. Whites in Florida were found to be in favor of growth controls in 2001, Chapin and Connerly, 2004, a finding that appears to have changed from 1985 when race, like income, seemed not to matter. Connerly and Frank, 1986. While Gainsborough, 2002, p. 735, found that African Americans were less likely to support slowing growth and development in the New York and Los Angeles metropolitan areas. Wasmer and Lasher, 2006, found that African Americans across California supported state-mandated planning, which the authors speculated could be attributed to more support, in general, by African Americans for activist governments. Because women have been found to be concerned about the environment, Kaufman and Petrosik, 1999, they are expected to be more supportive of land use policies. Buttle, 1987. While Connerly and Franks, 1986, study in Florida found no differences by gender in 1985, by 2001 women there indeed expressed more support for growth controls than men. Chapin and Connerly, 2004. In the same vein, Wasmer and Lasher, 2006, found that women in California were less supportive of additional growth. While the effects of age in older research are unclear, Baldassari, 1984, Connerly and Frank, 1986, recent research has found that older persons are likely to support land use policies. Gainsborough, 2002, Chapin and Connerly, 2004, including regional planning. Wasmer and Lasher, 2006. 3.3 Ideological and political attitudes. Wasmer and Lasher, 2006, found that conservatives were less likely to support regional planning. However, while Gainsborough, 2002, found that liberals in Los Angeles were more likely to see growth and congestion as problems, these results could not be duplicated in metropolitan New York. Other researchers have also found ideology to have ambiguous effects on support for land use policies. Gottdiener and Niemann, 1981, Connerly and Frank, 1986. 3.4 Community circumstances. People's attitudes towards land use could stem from specific local issues. Clark et al., 1998. Results from different surveys generally agree that dissatisfaction with one's neighborhood or with local services, those provided by one's municipality, such as fire and police services, and garbage collection, leads to support for land use policies. See, for example, Gottdiener and Niemann, 1981, Nape, 1987, Bollins, 1990. On the other hand, when people are satisfied with their community, they may support land use policies in order to keep it that way. Wasmer and Lasher, 2006. In addition, those who believe that sprawl is an important problem in their community also tend to support land use policies. Gottdiener and Niemann, 1981, Connerly and Frank, 1986, Wasmer and Lasher, 2006. In general, findings suggest that people support land use policies when they feel that circumstances in their community warrant government intervention. 3.5 Implications of the literature for this research. Because ideologically liberal persons have generally been found to be more supportive of environmental policies, Buttle, 1987, Dunlap et al., 2001, they are expected to support land use policies. Indeed, Gale and Hart, 1992, found that liberals in Maine were more supportive of land use policies and, although employing different terminology, different questions, and based on studies performed in different contexts, the literature, in particular the recent literature, suggests some interesting possibilities for predicting support for new regionalism. For instance, admittedly in different contexts since both. Downloaded from http://usj.sagepub.com at Wayne State University on November 20, 2008. 2788. Raymond Mohammed. The relatively wealthier, for example, Chapin and Connerly, 2004, who live in the suburbs, and relatively poorer minorities, for example, Wasmer and Lasher, 2006, who live in the cities, have expressed support for land use policies. Perhaps attempts to plan land use on a regional scale can gain support from both groups. Similarly, although again in different contexts, both whites, Chapin and Connerly, 2004, and African Americans, Wasmer and Lasher, 2006, have expressed support for land use policies. Further, given that both those who are unhappy with community circumstances and those who would like to maintain current community circumstances have expressed some support for land use policies, perhaps policymakers can tap into both groups in an attempt to promote regional land use governance. Thus, in general, the literature suggests that it might be possible for groups at opposite ends of socio-economic and demographic spectra and at opposite ends of contentment with their communities to find common ground with older citizens, liberals, Democrats, and the highly educated to pay for policies that can facilitate regional land use governance. The ratio of land use growth to population growth was 10:1 in Jackson, 12:1 in Muskegon, and 14:1 in Saginaw, Mulk, 2003. Another study found that, if current trends continue, by 2040 the amount of developed area in the state will have increased by 178%, PSC, 2001. Land use changes have not gone unnoticed by Michigan's residents. From 1995 through 2003, a majority of residents expressed concerns about sprawl, IPSR, 2003. Similarly, there has been high support for more land use planning, although the level of support seems to have declined in recent years. See MSPO, 1995, PSC, 1997, IPSR, 2003. Notwithstanding these levels of support, policymakers have not identified the characteristics of the supporters, the precise nature of the support, and whether citizens would pay for policies intended to address the problems. 5. Study data and methodology. This study utilized a survey that was conducted in winter 2005. Using computer-assisted telephone interviews, 805 randomly selected households were contacted by the Center for Urban Studies at Wayne State University. Before implementation, the survey was field tested with about 30 respondents to fine-tune the questions and make them as clear as possible. To capture the factors identified in the literature as important, the survey inquired about citizens' socio-economic and demographic characteristics, their ideological and political attitudes, and circumstances in the community where they live. To obtain additional information on community circumstances, respondents were asked for the zip code where they live. With Geographical Information Systems, GIS, the zip codes were utilized to determine the school districts in which respondents were located. Data were then obtained on annual expenditures. For the land use context in Michigan. Michigan has experienced many of the same land use changes evident elsewhere: rapid suburban sprawl, the loss of farmland and open space, and disinvestment in its cities. Boyle and Mohammed, 2007. These changes are evident in declining population densities across the state. As the major metropolitan statistical area, MSA, in Michigan, Detroit-Ann Arbor is typical of this trend. The MSA declined in density, persons per acre of urbanized land, by 18.7% between 1982 and 1997, Fulton et al., 2001. For other representative cities, between 1960 and 1990. Downloaded from http://usj.sagepub.com at Wayne State University on November 20, 2008. Who would pay? 2,789 per student in each relevant district from Michigan's Center for Educational Performance and Information. Further, as will be elaborated in Section 6, the survey asked additional questions of interest. To establish the dependent variables of interest, the survey asked the following two questions. 1. Would you be willing to consider a small property tax for a fixed number of years that would be used to purchase open space in rural areas? 2. Would you be willing to consider a small property tax for a fixed number of years that would be used to redevelop abandoned property in inner cities? 3. The allowable answers to each question were: yes, no, do not know, or refuse to answer. On the first question, about 92% of the respondents answered yes or no, while only 7.2% indicated that they did not know and only 0.7% refused to answer. With regard to the second question, the corresponding numbers were 93, 7.1, and 0.1%. These results indicate that respondents have definite opinions about the issue. Depending on their answers, each respondent was placed into one of four groups: 1. Willing to pay to purchase open space in rural areas and willing to pay to redevelop abandoned property in inner cities. 2. Willing to pay to purchase open space in rural areas but not willing to pay to redevelop abandoned property in inner cities. 3. Willing to pay to redevelop abandoned property in inner cities but not willing to pay to purchase open space in rural areas. 4. Not willing to pay to purchase open space in rural areas nor willing to pay to redevelop abandoned property in inner cities. These groups are interpreted as follows. Those respondents who fall into Group 1 would be willing to incur some costs for policies that can contribute to regional land use governance. Those who fall into Group 2 would be willing to incur costs, but only for a policy that preserves rural open space. Likewise, those who fall into Group 3 would be willing to incur costs, but only for a policy that redevelops inner cities. Table 1 shows the percentage of respondents who fell into each group. About 37% indicated that they would be willing to pay a small tax to purchase open space in rural areas and redevelop property in inner cities. More people supported a tax for redeveloping inner-city property only than for preserving open space only, 18.6 versus 12.3% respectively. A total of about 68%, 36.9 plus 12.3 plus 18.6, of the respondents expressed support for both or one of the policies. A majority, 55.5%, 36.9 plus 18.6, supported a tax to redevelop inner-city properties. Almost half the respondents. Table 1. Possible outcomes of preferences for taxes to support specific land use policies, percentages, willing to pay to redevelop abandoned property in inner cities, willing to pay to purchase open space in rural areas, not willing to pay to purchase open space in rural areas. 36.9, Group 1, 18.6, Group 3, not willing to pay to redevelop abandoned property in inner cities. 12.3, Group 2, 32.2, Group 4. Downloaded from http://usj.sagepub.com at Wayne State University on November 20, 2008. 2790. Raymond Mohammed. 49.2%, 36.9 plus 12.3, supported a tax to preserve open space. However, 32.2% of the respondents supported neither tax. These four groups form the basis for performing multinomial logistic regressions, MLRS. MLRS were utilized because they provide information on the odds that a citizen will fall into one of the groups as a function of independent variables. Like binary logistic regressions, the odds are relative to some reference group. In this study, the reference is Group 4. Respondents not willing to pay to purchase open space in rural areas nor willing to pay to redevelop abandoned property in inner cities. Thus, the results present the odds that someone will belong to Groups 1, 2, or 3 relative to Group 4. The focus of discussions will be on the odds of a respondent falling into Group 1, willing to pay to purchase open space in rural areas and willing to pay to redevelop abandoned property in inner cities, relative to Group 4. Because the former group consists of people who are interpreted as those who would pay for policies that contribute to regional land use governance. Nonetheless, results for Groups 2 and 3 will be briefly discussed, for it is worth noting that the survey is fairly representative of Michigan's population but reflects the tendencies of telephone surveys of this type to elicit more responses from those higher up the socio-economic ladder and women. Thus, while according to the 2000 U.S. Census, about 74% of persons in Michigan live in owner-occupied homes, in this survey about 81% of the respondents lived in Indiana owner-occupied homes, see Table 2. The corresponding figures for living in single-family homes are 75 and 82% respectively. Similarly, women comprise 51% of Michigan's population, but women comprised 58% of the respondents in Indiana this survey. And while about 22% of Michigan's residents have college degrees, 31% of the respondents in Indiana this survey had college degrees. This disparity is also partially explained by the fact that the census measures educational attainment only for those over 25. This survey included respondents younger than 25 who already have a college degree. 5 other comparisons, when appropriate, between census and survey data are shown in Table 2.6. No attempt was made to ascertain how long the respondents had lived in Michigan. Before performing the regression, analyses of variance, ANOVA, and chi-squared tests were performed to determine whether there were any statistically significant differences among respondents who fell into each of the 4 groups. Performing such preliminary analyses is standard in studies of this type. See, for example, Chapin, 2004. 6 Hypotheses, Citizen Support for Land Use Policies. Focusing on Group 1, hypotheses are drawn from the studies discussed in Section 3, which will be cited as necessary. It is again cautioned that previous studies have not used consistent terminology, have asked different questions and have not considered responses when potential costs are explicitly stated. Nonetheless, from this literature, findings of support for land use policies, growth controls, growth management, etc., are interpreted to indicate potential willingness to pay for policies that can contribute to regional land use governance. Following Baldassari, 2004, hypotheses based on attitudes towards land use are also presented. Further, because of the nature of the research question, hypotheses about geographical context, that is, living in a rural area or a large city, are discussed. Although the hypotheses focus on Group 1, mention will be made of how race and geographical location might be associated with Groups 2 and 3, This is done in these instances because race and location are expected to have strong unambiguous associations with groups 2 and 3. Downloaded from http://usj.sagepub.com at Wayne State University on November 20, 2008. Table 2. Population and sample statistics and hypothesis for variables of interest. Variables 0.74, 0.75, 0.22, 0.81, 0.39, 0.82, 0.38, 0.31, 0.46, 53.1, 44.5, 0.27, 0.45, 0.78, 0.41, 0.17, 0.40, 0.58, 0.49, 51, 17.19, 2.55, 1.32, 0.33, 0.47, 4.2, 1.03, 3.35, 1.25, 8.09, 1.42, 0.17, 0.38, 0.50, 0.50, 0.46, 0.49, 0.35, 0.48, 0.1000000001100000011197515512.831111100000.4011115001. Population sample mean, census, standard 2000 data, deviation, expected influence on minimum maximum group 1 plus unsure unsure plus unsure. Socioeconomic characteristics: owns place of residence, lives in single-family home, some college education or more, household income, $000s, father's occupation, white collar, 0.80, 0.14, 0.51. Demographic characteristics: white African American, female, age. Ideological and political attitudes: ideological preference, scale of 1 for conservative to 5 for liberal, Democrat. Downloaded from http://usj.sagepub.com at Wayne State University on November 20, 2008. Community circumstances: satisfaction with neighborhood, scale of 1 for very dissatisfied to 5 for very satisfied, satisfaction with level of services, scale of 1 for very dissatisfied to 5 for very satisfied, expenditure per student in school district, $000s, local sprawl is a big problem. Who would pay? Attitudes towards land use: prefers small home and short commute, prefers mixed use neighborhood. Geographical context: lives in large city, lives in rural area. 2791. A. This figure resulted from an error in the GIS data which placed a zip code outside any school district. 2792. Raymond Mohammed. 6.1 Socioeconomic characteristics. Because those higher up the socioeconomic ladder have been found to be more supportive of land use policies, Chapin and Connerly, 2004, it is expected that those who own their homes, occupy a single-family home, have higher levels of education and higher incomes, are more likely to be associated with Group 1. To capture another proxy for class, our survey asked respondents whether their father is a white-collar or blue-collar worker. In keeping with recent findings, it is hypothesized that those whose fathers are white-collar workers would be more willing to pay for the two policies. 6.2 Demographic characteristics. Respondent: the more likely is that person to be associated with Group 1. Self-identified Democrats are also expected to be associated with Group 1.7. 6.4 Community circumstances. Whites, Gainsborough, 2002, Chapin and Connerly, 2004, females, Chapin and Connerly, 2004, Wasmer and Lasher, 2006, and older citizens, Chapin and Connerly, 2004, Wasmer and Lasher, 2006, are likely to be associated with Group 1. Because the recent literature on African Americans is ambiguous, Gainsborough, 2002, Chapin and Connerly, 2004, the effects of this variable on Group 1 are unclear. Race is expected to have significant effects on Groups 2 and 3. Because whites are more likely to be found in rural areas, they are expected to be willing to be taxed to preserve rural open space and not willing to be taxed to redevelop abandoned property in inner cities, Group 2. Converse outcomes are expected for African Americans because they tend to be concentrated in large cities, Group 3. 6.3 Ideological and political attitudes. Both those who are satisfied and those who are dissatisfied with their neighborhood may support policies that contribute to regional land use governance, the former with the expectation that this can maintain good conditions and the latter with the expectation that this can improve undesirable conditions. Thus, this variable can have ambiguous effects. For similar reasons, the quality of local services, given taxes that are currently paid, and the quality of the respondent's school district, as reflected in expenditures per student, can also have ambiguous effects. Finally, following the literature, respondents who state that sprawl is a problem where they live are expected to be willing to pay for regional planning and thus be associated with Group 1. 6.5 Attitudes towards land use. Although ideological and political attitudes can be useful variables, they may not reveal other attitudes towards land use. To obtain a sense of these attitudes, questions first introduced by Baldassari, 2004, p. 24, were slightly modified to read, 1. Would you prefer to live in a small home with a small backyard, if it means that you have a short commute to work, or would you prefer to live in a large home with a large backyard even if it means you have a long commute to work? 2. Would you prefer to live in a mixed-use neighborhood where you can walk to schools, shopping, and services, or would you prefer to live in a residential-only neighborhood even if it means that you have to drive to schools, shopping, and services? 8. The literature has sometimes reported mixed findings for ideological and political attitudes. Bollins, 1990, Gale and Hart, 1992. However, because this survey explicitly identified potential costs for the two policies under consideration and because conservatives are less likely to support additional taxes, Chapin, 2004, it is expected that the more liberal they downloaded from http://usj.sagepub.com at Wayne State University on November 20, 2008. Who would pay? 2793. Both those who indicate a preference for a small home with a small backyard and express a preference for a mixed-use neighborhood are likely to be associated with Group 1. 6.6 Geographical context. Because of the importance of location in this study, the issue of whether respondents live in rural areas or large cities was examined, self-declared by respondents. The effects of location on Group 1 are unclear. However, it is possible that those who live in rural areas would be willing to pay a tax to preserve rural open space only, Group 2, while those who live in large cities would be willing to pay a tax to redevelop inner cities only, Group 3. Table 2 summarizes the hypotheses for Group 1 and presents descriptive statistics of the variables used in the analysis. 7 Results. In this section, the results of the ANOVAs, chi-squared tests, and multinomial logistic regressions are presented. 7.1 Differences across groups, ANOVAs and chi-squared tests. Table 3 shows the results of the ANOVAs and Pearson chi-squared analysis which provide an initial assessment of the results. 9 As can be seen, there are strong statistical differences across the 4 groups for many of the variables. Among the socioeconomic variables, there are differences across the groups in terms of the proportion of respondents with college education and household income, and the proportion having a father who was a white-collar worker. Collectively, these results are broadly consistent with recent findings about the importance of socioeconomic characteristics in determining support for land use policies. Chapin, 2004, Chapin and Connerly, 2004, Wasmer and Lasher, 2006. However, the proportion of persons living in a single-family home and owning their home did not vary across groups, probably because this situation is prevalent across Michigan, resulting in little variation in the data. Among the demographic variables, there are differences across the four groups for whites, African Americans, females, and age. As expected, ideology and political party affiliation vary across the groups, consistent with other research. Baldassari, 1984, Connerly and Frank, 1986, Gale and Hart, 1992. Community circumstances also play a role. Satisfaction with one's neighborhood and satisfaction with local services are both statistically significant, although only at the 10% level. School expenditures per student in the district where respondents live and the proportion of respondents who believe that sprawl is a problem where they live also vary across groups. There are no differences across the four groups in terms of the number of persons who prefer a small home and a short commute. This result probably reflects the fact that there is not much variation in commute time to work, given the degree of job sprawl that exists in Michigan. In addition, respondents may perceive that the advantages of suburban life, in particular, living outside the large cities, outweigh the benefits of a short commute. However, there are differences in terms of preference for mixed-use neighborhoods. Finally, the proportion of people living in large cities or rural areas varies across the four groups. 7.2 Support for the two policies, results of the multinomial logistic regressions. Table 4 presents the results of the multinomial logistic regression. The Nagekerke pseudo R2 for this model is 0.275. This R2 compares well with other studies that use logit regressions to investigate land use issues, for example, Chapin, 2004, with an R2 of 0.252. The model is statistically downloaded from http://usj.sagepub.com at Wayne State University on November 20, 2008. 2794. Raymond Mohammed. Table 3. ANOVA and chi-squared analysis, differences in means and proportions for respondents in the four different groups, by policy preference variables. Socioeconomic characteristics: owns place of residence, lives in a single-family home, some college education or more, household income, $000s, father's occupation, white collar, demographic characteristics: white African American female, age, ideological and political attitudes, ideological preference, scale of 1 for conservative to 5 for liberal, Democrat. Community circumstances: satisfaction with neighborhood, scale of 1 for very dissatisfied to 5 for very satisfied, satisfaction with level of services, scale of 1 for very dissatisfied to 5 for very satisfied, expenditure per student in school district, $000s, local sprawl is a big problem, attitudes towards land use, prefers small home and short commute, prefers mixed use neighborhood, geographical context, lives in large city, lives in rural area. Welch statistic: Pearson chi-squared 3.680.93 14.47 asterisk 3.79.36 18.42 17.008.014.6 11.5 11.49 2.2 asterisk 2.2 asterisk 5.2 10.61 3.02 10.17 10.39 8.19. Notes: asterisk significant at the 10% level, significant at the 5% level, significant at the 1% level. Significant beyond the 1% level, using the 2-log likelihood test. For the significant variables, the results represent the odds that a respondent would fall into a certain group, vs group for a respondent who supports neither policy, for each unit change in the independent variable. Point 10 For example, from Table 4, the odds that a white person would fall into Group 1, willing to pay to purchase open space in rural areas and willing to pay to redevelop abandoned property in inner cities, versus Group 4 are 2.32 times the odds of a person of some other race. The following discussions mostly focus on the odds that a citizen would be associated with Group 1 because that is the group of interest. Socioeconomic characteristics. None of the variables intended to represent socioeconomic. Downloaded from http://usj.sagepub.com at Wayne State University on November 20, 2008. Who would pay? 2795. Table 4. Results of multinomial logistic regression for tax preferences, relative to Group 4, Group 1A odds, SE. Socioeconomic characteristics: owns place of residence, lives in a single-family home, some college education or more, household income, $000s, father's occupation, white collar, demographic characteristics: white female, age, ideological and political attitudes, ideological preference, scale of 1 for conservative to 5 for liberal, Democrat, community, circumstances, satisfaction with neighborhood. Scale of 1 for very dissatisfied to 5 for very satisfied, satisfaction with level of services, scale of 1 for very dissatisfied to 5 for very satisfied, expenditure per student in school district, $000, local sprawl is a big problem, attitudes towards land use, prefers small home and short commute, prefers mixed use neighborhood, geographical context, lives in large city, lives in rural area. A. Group 2B odds, SE. 1.17, 1.56, 1.37, 1.000, 0.76, 0.78, 0.65, 0.44, 0.00, 0.46. Group 3C odds, SE. 1.010, 0.93, 1.28, 1.000, 0.49, 0.53, 0.47, 0.37, 0.01, 0.41, asterisk. 1.19, 0.81, 1.19, 0.99, 1.33, 0.48, 0.42, 0.32, 0.01, 0.33, 2.32, 0.45, asterisk, 0.98, 0.27, 0.97, 0.01, 1.46, 0.11, 1.30, 0.31, 1.16, 0.15, 3.00, 0.88, 0.88, 0.37, 0.99, 0.01, 1.10, 0.15, 0.40, 0.53, asterisk, 1.55, 0.25, asterisk. 0.98, 0.50, 1.49, 0.32, 0.98, 0.01, asterisk, 0.90, 0.12, 0.96, 0.35, 0.98, 0.16, 1.27, 0.12, 1.13, 0.16, 1.28, 0.14, asterisk. 1.46, 0.14, 2.94, 0.38, 1.03, 0.30, 1.45, 0.30, 1.05, 0.35, 0.90, 0.40, 0.97, 0.16, 3.28, 0.47, 0.80, 0.42, 0.97, 0.45, 0.72, 0.49, 0.83, 0.51, 1.06, 0.16, 0.72, 0.49, 0.89, 0.33, 1.30, 0.34, 0.77, 0.39, 0.48, 0.51. Willing to pay to purchase open space in rural areas and willing to pay to redevelop abandoned property in inner cities. Be willing to pay to purchase open space in rural areas but not willing to pay to redevelop abandoned property in inner cities. C. Willing to pay to redevelop abandoned property in inner cities but not willing to pay to purchase open space in rural areas. Notes: asterisk, significant at the 10% level, significant at the 5% level, significant at the 1% level. Status is significant. This is surprising given recent, Gainsborough, 2002, Chapin, 2004, Chapin and Connerly, 2004, Wasmer and Lasher, 2006, and Older, Gottdiener and Niemann, 1981, Pratash and Baldassari, 1983, Nape, 1987, findings about the importance of socio-economic variables. In particular, while Chapin and Connerly, 2004, identified. Downloaded from http://usj.sagepub.com at Wayne State University on November 20, 2008. 2796. Rehman Mohammed. Homeownership and household income as important for determining support for growth controls in Florida in 2001, and Wasmer and Lasher, 2006, identified college education as important for determining support for regional planning in California in 2002. In this study, these variables are not statistically significant. Demographic characteristics. Among the demographic variables, white and age are significant. The odds of a white citizen belonging to Group 1 are 2.32 times the odds of someone of another race, although this is only significant at the 10% level. The odds of belonging to Group 1 decrease as persons become older. The odds of an older person belonging to Group 1 are about 0.97 times the odds of a person 1 year younger. Although the effect is small for any 1 year increment, the odds accumulate over wider ranges. For example, the odds of someone who is 68 years old, approximately 1 standard deviation above the mean age, belonging to Group 1 are about 0.64 times the odds of someone who is 51, the average age, 0.11. Likewise, the odds of someone who is 51 years old belonging to Group 1 are about 0.64 times the odds of someone who is 36, approximately 1 standard deviation below the mean age, 0.12. This is in contrast to other studies that found that older persons are more likely to support some form of land use planning. Baldassari, 1984, Connerly and Frank, 1986, Wasmer and Lasher, 2006. Ideological and political attitudes. From the regression, each additional unit in the direction of being more liberal, on a scale of 1-5, increases the odds of a respondent belonging to Group 1 about 1.46 times. These results are consistent with other findings. Bollins, 1990, Gale and Hart, 1992, Wasmer and Lasher, 2006. Community circumstances. Satisfaction with local services and school district quality, as measured by expenditures, is statistically significant. Each additional unit increase in satisfaction with local services, on a scale of 1-5, increases the odds of belonging to Group 1 about 1.27 times. Each additional expenditure of $1,000 per student in a school district increases the odds of belonging to Group 1 about 1.46 times. In general, as found in other studies, satisfaction with desirable community circumstances, in terms of local services and the quality of one's school district, appears to lead to a desire to maintain those circumstances through land use policies. Finally, for someone who believes that sprawl is a problem where they live, the odds of belonging to Group 1 are about 2.94 times the odds of a person who does not believe that sprawl is a problem. This is also consistent with other studies. Gottdiener and Niemann, 1981, Connerly and Frank, 1986, Wasmer and Lasher, 2006. Attitudes towards land use. None of these variables is statistically significant. Geographical context. None of these variables is statistically significant. In sum, although the ANOVAs and chi-squared tests reveal differences across the groups for many of the variables, the regressions show that only some of the variables are statistically significant. 7.3 Results relating to Groups 2 and 3. No socioeconomic and demographic variables predict the likelihood of being associated with Group 2, willing to pay to purchase open space in rural areas but not willing to pay to redevelop abandoned property in inner cities. Democrats are less willing to pay a tax to preserve rural open space only. The odds Downloaded from http://usj.sagepub.com at Wayne State University on November 20, 2008. Who would pay? 2,797. Of a Democrat belonging to Group 2 are 0.4 times those of a non-Democrat, although this is only significant at the 10% level. Those who are satisfied with their neighborhood are more likely to support paying a tax to preserve open space only. Group 2. The odds of belonging to Group 2 increase 1.55 times for each unit increase in satisfaction with one's neighborhood, on a scale of 1-5, significant at the 10% level. The odds of belonging to Group 2 also increase by about 3.28 times for those who believe that sprawl is a problem. With regard to Group 3, three variables are significant, all at the 10% level. Persons whose fathers are white-collar workers are less willing to pay a tax to redevelop abandoned property in inner cities only. The odds of someone whose father is a white-collar worker belonging to Group 3 are about 0.49 times those of a person whose father is a blue-collar worker. The results for age and satisfaction with local services are similar to those for Group 1. The odds of an older person belonging to Group 3 are about 0.98 times those of a person 1 year younger. The odds of someone who is 68 years old, approximately 1 standard deviation above the mean age, belonging to Group 3 are about 0.72 times the odds of someone who is 51, the average age. Likewise, the odds of someone who is 51 years old belonging to Group 3 are about 0.72 times the odds of someone who is 36, approximately 1 standard deviation below the mean age. Each additional unit increase in satisfaction with local services increases the odds of belonging to Group 3 about 1.28 times. 8 Discussions and conclusions. This study has attempted to ascertain which citizens would pay for the preservation of rural open space and the redevelopment of inner cities, which together can contribute to an inside-outside strategy that is key to the success of New Regionalism. Rusk, 1999. About 37% of the respondents expressed a willingness to pay for both policies. Group 1. This is not an insignificant level of support, especially for a state that is as sharply divided along socio-economic lines as Michigan, and suggests that there is some room for building a coalition that supports policies that can contribute to regional land use governance. However, 37% is a smaller proportion than that obtained in other studies that inquired about support for land use policies in general and in which potential costs were not explicitly mentioned. Gottdiener and Niemann, 1981, Connerly and Frank, 1986, Chapin and Connerly, 2004, Wasmer and Lasher, 2006, suggesting that the issue of costs is important. The support identified in this research is centered on younger people, liberals, and whites, and people who are generally satisfied with their communities, in terms of services and the quality of their school district, but are concerned about sprawl. The result for whites should be treated with caution as it is significant only at the 10% level. With regard to Groups 2 and 3, there is lack of broad support for preserving rural open space only or for redeveloping inner cities only respectively. In addition, the support that has been identified for these two groups is not statistically strong, except in the case of sprawl being a problem for Group 2. The latter result suggests that people may see the preservation of rural open space as a means to address sprawl. In general, however, the results suggest that it is difficult to identify a coalition that will support policies in which costs are widely spread among citizens all across the state but in which benefits can be concentrated on certain populations. Downloaded from http://usj.sagepub.com at Wayne State University on November 20, 2008. 2798. Raymond Mohammed. And restricted to certain locations. Overall, this does not appear to be surprising. It is somewhat surprising that those living in rural areas are not associated with Group 2 and those living in large cities are not associated with Group 3. When viewed in totality, a broad positive implication follows from the results of these analyses. True, the results for Groups 2 and 3 suggest that it is difficult to form a statewide coalition to pay for land use policies when the benefits may be perceived as going only to one group or area. However, there is more identifiable support to pay the costs for land use policies when the benefits can have wider regional implications, as in Group 1. This finding suggests that if measures are taken to ensure that benefits are widely spread, policymakers may be able to broaden the coalition of support for policies that can contribute to regional land use governance. The support observed in this research, while not overwhelming, appears to be consistent with indications elsewhere in the U.S. that local governments are more willing to explore the use of regional governance. Even 8 years ago, articles in a special issue of the journal State and Local Government Review, 2000, documented several instances around the U.S., where new regionalism using a variety of governance mechanisms was taking hold. In addition to the well-known examples of Minneapolis, St. Paul and Portland, researchers documented evolving examples of new regionalism in Indianapolis, Los Angeles, Houston, Charlotte-Mecklenburg, North Carolina, Louisville, Kentucky, and Jacksonville, Florida. More recently, Scott, 2007, p. 31, reports that new regionalism, as operationalized under the rubric of various smart growth policies, appears to be contributing not only in theory but in practice to the development of new governance models and mechanisms in the San Francisco Bay Area. He also documents a number of sub-regional cooperative governance efforts across the Bay Area. Indeed, even within Michigan, there are current attempts at forging intergovernmental alliances, although these efforts are more prevalent at the sub-regional rather than the regional level. For example, the Grand Valley Metro Council, GVMC, that includes Grand Rapids, the second largest city in Michigan, comprises 33 jurisdictions and 6 county governments, although this does not constitute the entirety of the metro region. The explicit objective of the GVMC is to create compact livable communities and to border the constituent communities with open spaces, farmland, and greenways. Recent research found that the GVMC has been successful in improving the planning capacity of smaller constituent members and in fostering collaborative approaches to planning. Visser, 2004. In Traverse City and the surrounding 5-county area, business organizations have taken the lead in encouraging communities to use common design principles, engage in joint land use planning and develop a coordinated farmland protection strategy. Cities in Washtenaw County, including Ann Arbor, have implemented measures to purchase land in order to form an interconnected system of open space, while at the same time promoting the economic health of the cities. Around Detroit, the Michigan Suburbs Alliance, MSA, consisting of 23 inner ring suburbs that contain over 900,000 residents, was formed to encourage development in declining inner ring suburbs and away from the periphery. While there is some evidence to suggest that these efforts have the potential to be successful, see Boyle and Mohammed, 2007, not all sub-regional efforts in Michigan have shown the same potential. As Visser, 2004, documents, the Kalamazoo County Council of Governments, COG, failed. Downloaded from http://usj.sagepub.com at Wayne State University on November 20, 2008. Who would pay? 2799. In its efforts at regional planning. However, the reason appears to be instructive. The COG, formed in the 1980s, viewed itself as a government and was considered by smaller constituent governments to be a risk to their local autonomy. Visser, 2004. Perhaps not surprisingly, the COG petered out. In general, the existing efforts in Michigan may reflect awareness on the part of policymakers that the public is willing to support some form of regional governance. It should be noted, however, that none of the efforts I could identify in Michigan, with the exception of the failed COG, includes large cities that have significant percentages of African Americans, suggesting that in practice these sub-regional efforts are still restricted to more homogeneous areas. Point 13. This is consistent with the results of this research, in which whites are identified as being supportive of the two policies. The results of the analyses also reveal two other causes for concern. First, while other research has frequently shown that older persons are more likely to support land use policies, this research found that older persons are less likely to do so. In general, the result is consistent with findings that people tend to be more fiscally conservative as they age. Silverstein et al., 2000. This particular finding may be of importance to policymakers, given that the population of the U.S. is getting older. Shrestha, 2006. With an aging population, land use policies that require fiscal sacrifices may become more difficult to implement. Secondly, the results for small home and short commute and for mixed-use neighborhoods, which are some of the defining attributes of smart growth, Downs, 2005, are also a concern. While significant percentages of respondents, 50 and 46% respectively, expressed a preference for these conditions, these variables are not associated with Group 1. This might suggest that people may not link important attributes of smart growth to regionalism. This could be of concern to planners, given that scholars see smart growth as an avenue through which to implement regional governance. Nelson et al., 2004, DeGrove, 2005, Landis, 2006, Scott, 2007. Nonetheless, this study finds some support, albeit narrow, for policies that can contribute to regional land use governance in Michigan. This augurs well for other efforts around the U.S. Notes 1. For example, Chapin and Connerly, 2004, inquired about support for growth controls across Florida. Baldassari and Wilson, 1996, inquired about support for growth controls in a single county, Orange County, California. Gainsborough, 2002, inquired about support for slowing growth at the metropolitan level in New York and Los Angeles, and Wasmer and Lasher, 2006, inquired about support for institutional arrangements for regional planning across California. An example of how differently worded questions could elicit different responses can be seen with regard to Wasmer and Lasher, 2006, and Gainsborough, 2002, both of whom asked questions that, at least on the surface, inquired about the same issue: are people in favor of controlling land use? The former inquired about support for state-mandated planning, which elicited backing from African Americans. As the authors note, African Americans' support may stem from a preference for more activist governments. On the other hand, the latter inquired about support for slowing growth, which African Americans did not support, and which is not surprising given the need for jobs and growth in minority communities. 2. On the other hand, Baldassari and Wilson, 1996, found that the significance of income eroded with time. 3. No attempts were made in the survey to inform respondents about the potential benefits of preserving rural open space or redeveloping abandoned property in inner cities. Respondents were also left to make their own judgments. Downloaded from http://usj.sagepub.com at Wayne State University on November 20, 2008. 2800. Raymond Mohammed. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. About who would be likely to be the beneficiaries of these policies. The validity of the survey is, of course, dependent upon respondents' understanding the questions and what it means to preserve rural open space and redevelop abandoned property in inner cities. An alternative to MLRS is to perform binomial regressions where the first category of respondents consists of those who belong to Group 1 and the second category consists of those who belong to Groups 2, 3, and 4. While this is a useful approach, it does not allow for a discussion of how support for Group 1 compares with support for Groups 2 and 3, and the information gleaned on Groups 2 and 3 would be lost. To elaborate further on these points, the census includes persons living in dorms, prisons, and other institutional arrangements, who are not normally included in telephone surveys of this type. If these persons were discounted from the census, the percentage of the population living in owner-occupied or single-family homes would increase and is likely to be closer to the numbers obtained in this survey. Further, institutional arrangements, particularly prisons and homeless shelters, are heavily overrepresented by males and less educated members of the population. Thus, again, the population available for this survey was comparatively more female and better educated. The median household income of $44,667 reported by the census in 2000 also compares well with the median household income of approximately $45,000 obtained in this survey, not shown in Table 2. Ideological attitudes can sometimes be a tricky measure, as self-identification as conservative does not distinguish between fiscal and social conservatism, perhaps explaining previous ambiguous results. Therefore, political party affiliation was included in this survey in an attempt to distinguish between fiscal and social conservatism. These questions are almost identical to those asked by Baldassari, 2004, questions 36 and 37. The wording of Baldassari's question 36 is, 1. Would you choose to live in a small home with a small backyard, if it means you have a short commute to work, or 2. Would you choose to live in a large home with a large backyard, even if it means you would have a longer commute to work? The wording of Baldassari's question 37 is, 1. Would you choose to live in a mixed-use neighborhood, if it means you can walk to stores, schools, and services, or 2. Would you choose to live in a residential-only neighborhood, even if it means you have to drive to stores, schools, and services? The only difference between the wording of Baldassari's original questions and the questions employed in this survey is the use of the word prefer instead of choose. Because of the slight difference in wording of the questions in this survey, quotation marks are not used in the text of this article. Nonetheless, Baldassari, 2004, is fully credited as the original source of these questions. As part of performing the ANOVA for the interval variables, the Levene statistic was observed to ascertain whether the variances for the interval variables are not equal. Non-quality of variances, and unequal numbers of observations in the four groups, can affect the reliability of the F statistic determined in the ANOVAs. Because the Levene statistic revealed that in some instances the variances for the interval variables are not equal, and there are unequal observations in the four groups, the Welch statistic is reported for the ANOVAs instead of the F statistic. As in, for example, Chapin, 2004, odds are the most common approach to presenting the results of logistic regressions, see Hosmer and Lemshow, 1989. The odds are obtained by taking the inverse natural log of the parameter estimates that result from the regression, exp. b. This result was obtained by finding exp. 17 times 0.026, where 0.026 is the parameter estimate obtained from the regression. This result highlights one of the disadvantages of regressions where the results indicate, for example, that differences in attitudes between those who are 30 and 20 years old are the same as differences in attitudes between those who are 70 and 60 years old. One approach to account for possible nonlinearity in age is to 9, 10, 11, 12. Downloaded from http://usj.sagepub.com at Wayne State University on November 20, 2008. Who would pay? 2801. Break the age variable into 10-year categories. However, given the range of ages in this survey, 17 to 97, this would result in too many independent variables. The use of AGE2 as an independent variable was also explored, but this did not result in a significant estimate. 13. This raises the issue of how much of the failure of the COG could be attributed to the fact that the dominant city in the group, Kalamazoo, with a population of 77,145, contained 20.6% African Americans in its population, 2000 census, while the surrounding smaller cities had much lower percentages of African Americans. Acknowledgements. The author thanks the Center for Urban Studies at Wayne State University for conducting the survey. He also thanks Like Thompson, director of the center, for his comments on an early version of the paper and for his assistance in wording some of the questions. Thanks are also due to George Galster, Gary Sands, and Avis Vital, all of Wayne State, who provided feedback during various stages of the research. References. Baldassari, M., 1984, Predicting Local Concern About Growth, The Roots of Citizen Discontent, Journal of Urban Affairs, 6, 1, pages 3949. Baldassari, M. 1989, Citizen Support for Regional Government in the New Suburbia, Urban Affairs Quarterly, 24, 3, pages 460-469. Baldassari, M. 1991, Is There Room for Regionalism in the Suburbs? Orange County Reactions to the Air Quality Plan, Journal of Architectural and Planning Research, 8, 3, pages 222-234. Baldassari, M. 1994, Regional Variations in Support for Regional Governance, Urban Affairs Review, 30, 2, pages 275-284. Baldassari, M. 2004, PPIC Statewide Survey, Special Survey of Orange County. Public Policy Institute of California, San Francisco, CA, December. Baldassari, M. and Wilson, G. 1996, Changing Sources of Suburban Support for Local Growth Controls, Urban Studies, 33, 3, pages 459-471. Barnes, W.R. and Leadber, L.C., 1998, The New Regional Economies, the U.S. Common Market and the Global Economy. Thousand Oaks, C.A., Sage Publications. Basalo, V. 2003, U.S. Regionalism and Rationality, Urban Studies, 40, 3, pages 447-462. Bollins, S.A., 1990, Constituencies for Limitation and Regionalism, Approaches to Growth Management, Urban Affairs Review, 26, 1, pages 4667. Boyle, R. and Mohammed, R. 2007, State Growth Management, Smart Growth and Urban Containment, A Review of the U.S. and a Study of the Heartland, Journal of Environmental Planning and Management, 50, 5, pages 677-697. Buttle, F.H., 1987, New Directions in Environmental Sociology, Annual Review of Sociology, 13, pages 465-488. Calthorpe, P. and Fulton, W.B., 2001, The Regional City, Planning for the End of Sprawl. Washington, D.C., Island Press. Chapin, T. 2004, Variations in Citizen Familiarity with Growth Management Processes, Evidence from Florida, Urban Affairs Review, 39, 4, pages 441-460. Chapin, T.S. and Connerly, C.E., 2004, Attitudes Towards Growth Management in Florida, Comparing Resident Support in 1985 and 2001, Journal of the American Planning Association, 70, 4, pages 443-452. Clark, T.N., Hoffman Martinot, V. and Gromala, M., 1998, The New Political Culture. Boulder, C.O., Westview Press. Connerly, C.E. and Frank, J.E., 1986, Predicting Support for Local Growth Controls, Social Science Quarterly, 67, 3, pages 572-586. Correll, M.R., Lillydahl, J.H. and Sinjal, L.D., 1978, The Effects of Greenbelts on Residential Property Values, Some Findings on the Political Economy of Open Space, Land Economics, 54, 2, pages 207-217. Daniels, T. 1999, When City and Country Collide, Managing Growth in the Metropolitan Fringe. Washington, D.C., Island Press. Danielson, M.N., 1976, The Politics of Exclusion. New York, Columbia University Press. DeGrove, J.M., 2005, Planning Policy and Politics, Smart Growth in the States. Lincoln Institute of Land Policy, Cambridge, Ma. Downloaded from http://usj.sagepub.com at Wayne State University on November 20, 2008. 2802. Raymond Mohammed. Downs, A. 2005, Smart Growth, Why We Discuss It More Than We Do It, Journal of the American Planning Association, 71, 4, pages 367-378. Dreyer, P., Mollenkopf, J. H. and Swanstrom, T. 2004, Place Matters, Metropolitics for the 21st Century, 2nd ed. Lawrence, K. S., University Press of Kansas. Dunlap, R. E., Xiao, C., and McCreight, A. 2001, Politics and Environment in America, Partisan and Ideological Cleavages in Public Support for Environmentalism, Environmental Politics, 10, 4, pages 2348. Frieden, B. J., 1979, The Environmental Protection Hustle. Cambridge, Ma., MIT Press. Fulton, W., Pendle, R., Nguyen, M., and Harrison, A. 2001, Who Sprawls Most? How Growth Patterns Differ Across the U.S. The Brookings Institution, Washington, D.C. Gainsborough, J.F., 2002, Slow Growth and Urban Sprawl, Support for a New Regional Agenda, Urban Affairs Review, 37, 5, pages 7-8-744. Gale, D.E. and Hart, S., 1992, Public Support for Local Comprehensive Planning Under Statewide Growth Management, Insights from Maine, Journal of Planning Education and Research, 11, 3, pages 192-205. Gerhardt, A., 1999, David Rusk's Message, Sprawl and Race Shaping the Land, Planning and Zoning News, 17, 7, pages 512. Gottdiener, M., and Niemann, M., 1981, Characteristics of Support for Local Growth Control, Urban Affairs Review, 17, 1, pages 5573. Greer, S.A., 1962, Governing the Metropolis. New York, John Wiley. Hosmer, D.W.J.R. and Lemshow, S., 1989, Applied Logistic Regression, 2nd ed. New York, Wiley. Ipser, Institute for Public Policy and Social Research, 2003, State of the State Survey. Ipsos Bulletin 03-03. Ipser, Michigan State University, http://www.ippsr.msu.edu publications/b0303.pdf. Kaufman, K.M. and Petrosik, J.R., 1999, The Changing Politics of American Men, Understanding the Sources of the Gender Gap, American Journal of Political Science, 43, 3, pages 864887. Nape, G.J., 1987, Self-Interest and Voter Support for Oregon Land Use Controls, Journal of the American Planning Association, 53, 1, pages 9297. Landis, J.D., 2006, Growth Management Revisited, Journal of the American Planning Association, 72, 4, pages 411-430. Land Trust Alliance, 2002, Land Vote 2001, Americans Invest in Parks and Open Space. Land Trust Alliance, Washington, D.C. Lindsay, G., and Nape, G., 1999, Willingness to Pay for Urban Greenway Projects, Journal of the American Planning Association, 65, 3, pages 297-313. Logan, J.R. and C. Mayanov, M., 1980, Growth and Succession in Suburban Communities, Sociological Quarterly, 21, 1, pages 93105. Mlolk, Michigan Land Use Leadership Council, 2003, Michigan's Land, Michigan's Future, Final Report of the Michigan Land Use Leadership Council. Mlolk, Lansing, M.I. Mohammed, R., 2006, The Economics of Conservation Subdivisions, Price Premiums, Improvement Costs, and Absorption Rates, Urban Affairs Review, 41, 3, pages 376-399. MSPO, Michigan Society of Planning Officials, 1995, Land Use Views and Priorities of Michigan Residents, Results of the Trend Future Surveys, 1994-1995, Planning and Zoning News. Nelson, A.C., 1985, A Unifying View of Greenbelt Influences on Regional Land Values and Implications for Regional Planning Policy, Growth, and Change, 16, 2, pages 4348. Nelson, A.C. and Milgrom, J.H., 1995, Central City Revitalization Through Regional Growth Management, in, F. W. Wagner, A. Mumphrey and T. Joder, eds, Central City Revitalization, pages 137. Thousand Oaks, C.A., Sage. Nelson, A.C., Burby, R.J., Fieser, EETAL, 2004, Urban Containment and Central City Revitalization, Journal of the American Planning Association, 70, 4, pages 411425. Norris, D.F., 2001a, Prospects for Regional Governance Under the New Regionalism, Economic Imperatives versus Political Impediments, Journal of Urban Affairs, 23, 5, pages 557571. Norris, D.F., 2001b, Wither Metropolitan Governance, Urban Affairs Review, 36, 4, pages 532550. Orfield, M., 2002, American Metropolitics, The New Suburban Reality. Washington, D.C., Brookings Institution Press. Downloaded from http://usj.sagepub.com at Wayne State University on November 20, 2008. Who would pay? 2803. Parks, R.B. and Okerson, R.J., 1989, Metropolitan Organization and Governance, A Local Public Economy Approach, Urban Affairs Review, 25, 1, pages 1829. Pastor, M., Dreyer, P.J., Grigsby, EETAL, 2000, Regions That Work, How Cities and Suburbs Can Grow Together. Minneapolis, M.N., University of Minnesota Press. Pierce, N.R., Johnson, C.W. and Hall, J.S., 1993, City-States, How Urban America Can Prosper in a Competitive World. Washington, D.C., Seven Locks Press. Porter, M.E., 1997, New Strategies for Inner-City Economic Development, Economic Development Quarterly, 11, 1, pages 1127. Pratash, W., and Baldassari, M., 1983, Growth Policies and Community Status, A Test and Modification of Logan Theory, Urban Affairs Review, 18, 3, pages 397412. PSC, Public Sector Consultants, 1997, 1997 Statewide Land Use Survey, Planning and Zoning News, 16, 2. PSC, 2001, Michigan Land Resource Project. Prepared for the Frey Foundation and the W.K. Kellogg Foundation on behalf of the Michigan Economic and Environmental Roundtable, Public Sector Consultants, Lansing, M.I. Ross, B.H. and Levine, M.A., 2005, Urban Politics, Power in Metropolitan America, 7th ed. Belmont, C.A., Thomson Wadsworth. Rothblatt, D.N., 1994, North American Metropolitan Planning, Canadian and United States Perspectives, Journal of the American Planning Association, 60, 4, pages 501520. Rusk, D., 1999, Inside Game/Outside Game, Winning Strategies for Saving Urban America. Washington, D.C., Brookings Institution. Savage, H.V. and Vogel, R.K., 2000, Introduction, Paths to a New Regionalism, State and Local Government Review, 32, 3, pages 158168. Savage, H.V., Collins, D., Sanders, D., and Markham, J.P., 1993, Ties That Bind, Central Cities, Suburbs, and the New Metropolitan Region, Economic Development Quarterly, 7, 4, pages 341357. Scott, J.W., 2007, Smart Growth as Urban Reform, A Pragmatic Recoding of the New Regionalism, Urban Studies, 44, 1, pages 1535. Shrestha, L.B., 2006, The Changing Demographic Profile of the United States. Congressional Research Service Report for Congress, Washington, D.C. Silverstein, M., Parrott, T., Angelelli, J.J. and Cook, F.L., 2000, Solidarity and Tension Between Age Groups in the United States, Challenge for an Aging America in the 21st Century, International Journal of Social Welfare, 9, 4, pages 270284. Visser, J., 2004, Voluntary Regional Councils and the New Regionalism, Effective Governance in the Smaller Metropolis, Journal of Planning Education and Research, 24, 1, pages 5163. Wasmer, R.W. and Lasher, E.L., 2006, Who Supports Local Growth and Regional Planning to Deal with Its Consequences, Urban Affairs Review, 41, 5, pages 621645. Wheeler, S.M., 2002, The New Regionalism, Key Characteristics of an Emerging Movement, Journal of the American Planning Association, 68, 3, pages 267278. White, S.B., Bingham, R.D. and Hill, E.W., 2003, Financing Economic Development in the 21st Century. Armonk, New York, M. E. Sharp. Downloaded from http://usj.sagepub.com at Wayne State University on November 20, 2008.